Always true.
We ask the questions.
What is needed in the world?
Is that going to be?
He was born in New York. His great-grandfather was a Muslim, and some say he's a future Prime Minister. Who would this be if not Boris, the Mayor of London? He's the man who, despite limited real power, has managed to excite the citizens of this city more than any other recent mayor. And because of this ability, he's excited members of the Conservative Party too, who say its leadership badly needs an infusion of new blood. Their eyes are turning towards the man who led a successful Olympics, has overseen an improved transport network in a congested city where people from all over the world are trying to get along. But that isn't always easy.
Mate, don't you know this is a Muslim area? You need to get out of it.
In scenes like this, it's clear there are tensions on the streets of London, in this case between Muslims and non-Muslims. And a backlash against immigration has seen the UK Independence Party challenge the policies of David Cameron. Is this man the answer to all of that? What does he want? And who is he really? We'll find out as Boris Johnson, the Mayor of London, talks to Al Jazeera. Boris Johnson, welcome to Talk to Al Jazeera.
Thank you.
You're serving a second time.
That's right.
As Mayor of one of the greatest cities in the world. What was it like holding one of the most praised modern Olympic Games of our time?
Well, you're very kind to call the Olympic and Paralympic Games the most praised modern Olympics, and certainly they did go very, very well, much better than I think the skeptics and the gloomsters thought they possibly could. I had a fantastic time doing it, clearly, but the real credit, I've harvested all sorts of undeserved credit for being mayor at the time, but the real credit belongs to thousands and thousands of people who got it ready. The transport people, the organising committee, everybody, all the volunteers, and of course the athletes themselves. And Londoners really participated in showing our city off in a way that I think really surprised the world, but above all surprised us in London. It was a wonderful thing because it filled us again with confidence and
which apparently is evaporating now.
What
was it like? What was it like? 14,000 people chanting "Boris, Boris, Boris."
These things are very, very bad for the egos, as I'm sure you can imagine. And I don't think, by the way, I don't think the confidence is evaporating.
Well, there isn't so much a feel-good factor. That's evaporating a bit, isn't it?
Well, I mean, if you look at, actually, on the contrary, if you look at since the Olympics, most interesting thing is happening. We are having a boom in investment in London, and since the Games, I think the images of London that went around the world reminded people of what a great city it is to live in and to invest in. So Croydon, which was stalled for ages, this southern suburb of London, you suddenly got billions going in to regenerate the town centre. The Battersea Power Station, which most of our viewers will know from the Pink Floyd album cover, if they know it at all.
An iconic building.
Iconic building, going to be restored, turned into hotels, heaven knows what. Billions coming in.
So lots of money coming in, and you're in Doha to get even more money coming in because you think London is now the 8th emirate.
I think London is you were kind enough to call it one of the greatest cities in the world in your introduction, and I wouldn't hesitate to disagree with that. I wouldn't disagree with that, but I think that it is arguably at the moment the greatest because we've got the right time zone, we've got the right language, we've got it's unlike any other city in Europe, certainly in Western Europe, in that it has a growing population, a young, dynamic population, and it is, to get to your point, it is more multinational, more welcoming than any other city I can think of.
Are cities becoming more important than countries?
Yes, and I think it was you who was you had a brilliant idea for a programme which was going to be about mayors of great cities, and that is exactly the kind of thing that you should.
Because some cities' economies are bigger than countries.
Correct. I mean, if I was, I would be, as Mayor of London, I have the government of a city, effectively a city-state that is bigger than Austria, bigger than Belgium, bigger than Sweden, bigger than most of the countries in the EU. I mean, I should have a place in the European Council of Ministers. London is now 22% of the UK economy. It's bigger as a proportion of the UK economy than it's ever been. So I think your idea is a good one. I'll tell you why, because the story of the world economy in the next 50 years is going to be about urbanization and about how great cities can compete, but also how they can learn from each other. So my mission here in the Gulf is to obviously to pick up
officially, and this is a strange diversion because you're not mayor of the City of London.
No, correct.
And the City of London is the financial heart of the United Kingdom, and that's under fire from Europe, isn't it? Especially with the financial transaction tax. Do you fear interference from Brussels?
Yes, I mean, I'm mayor, obviously, of the whole city. There is a separate Lord Mayor, who's a ceremonial post, who is nominated by the city. But yes, I do think it's an important question, and I don't want to see unnecessary regulation coming from Brussels or anywera else.
But especially Brussels.
But especially Brussels, that disadvantages us particularly in the UK. And I went on a trip to Paris quite recently, where they're great partisans of this financial transaction tax and various other, I think quite damaging regulations. I made the point to them that London is an atout, as they say in Paris, an asset for the entire European Union. London is the financial capital of Europe.
But that's exactly why they don't like it.
Well, no, because the point is that they do understand this point, which is if you disadvantage London, the jobs don't migrate to Paris or to Frankfurt or to any other European capital. They go to Singapore or indeed to Dubai or elsewhere, or to New York particularly. And so I think that actually is a point that they understand. Look at the French firms that raise money in London for their business. EDF, Saint-Gobain. When
well,
they
half
want
of
to
Paris
raise,
is in London at the moment anyway.
But I am the mayor. I'm proud to say a mayor
of a large part of France in London.
I had Alain Juppé in my office, and he's the mayor of the. He proudly told me he was the mayor of the 9th biggest city in France.
Sarkozy,
Bordeaux.
he was a former mayor as well.
And I'm the mayor of the 6th biggest city in France. French city, I should say.
Yes, that's right. 6th biggest city in France. Amazing. When you're in Qatar, when you're in Doha, you're on the world stage here. How much? I mean, you don't get involved in any kind of world events, but you must have an opinion. When you look at, say, for example, the standoff between North and South Korea, and you think to yourself, could I be part of this? Could I broker some kind of agreement? How could I end a hostility like that? Do you ever think? Because you're a politician.
Yes,
you must
sure.
think.
I mean, all politicians are full of grandiose thoughts.
And ideas.
That's the professional deformation of our job, that we think that we could go and sort out this or that intractable global problem. I look at North Korea, and my views are, I'm sure, the same as yours and most of our viewers, which I very much hope that people there will come to their senses. But one of the things I try and do in London is, as far, and this is in this, you may resent me for saying this, but I try as far as I can. I've got to make the city safe. I've got to make the trains run on time. I've got to improve our parks. I've got to make sure the air is clean. I've got to make sure that London's a great place to live in and invest in. But above all, I've got to bring together a city that has 300 languages. It's even more diverse than New York. So it is not really my job, no matter what I may privately think, to
talk about international events,
to try to sort out problems.
But you must have. But you're a scholarly man. You're an intelligent man. You're mayor of one of the greatest cities in the world. I'm giving you all this praise and build up, and then you won't give me an opinion on North Korea.
I think there was an opinion on North Korea that was ventured there. I said I hope very much that they will come to their senses.
Okay, fine. That's a good opinion, a strong opinion. What about the Arab Spring? You must have watched that from the distance.
Yes, and look, I mean, again, I think that obviously there were some encouraging things and perhaps some less encouraging things, but I don't want to, and let's hope that the things that I think matter, and that's as far as possible, people should.
You're not giving me anything. You're
people
going for time, aren't you?
Yeah, of course.
As in watch the Arab Spring unfold.
I'm not quite certain what your question is.
My question is,
what specific question you want me to answer?
The specific question is, you watched the Arab Spring unfold, and you must have been stunned by the pace of change. You must have been stunned at this revolution crossing the Arab world. And I wondered what your reaction is or was to that.
I think it's in the immortal words of Chow En-lai on the subject of the French Revolution. I think it's too early to tell, and we'll have to see how it pans out. And I am obviously what I want to see is human rights. I want to see all the things that I'm sure that our viewers value. People feeling that they can be properly represented, that their lives are going to improve, that they're going to have access to global markets, that all these things that I think will lead to the betterment of mankind. But it's not my position, I think, really, as Mayor of London, to delve too deeply into the interstices of the political arrangements of these countries.
Let's go back to Mayor of London.
Whatever I may personally.
Do you define yourself as a politician, a titular
human being,
a mayor, a human being, or a serious politician?
I think that my job is to do my level best to represent people of the city that elected me, not once but twice, and to get over to the world what I think is true, that in a very hotly contested field, and an increasingly hotly contested field, London is the greatest place on earth to live in, to work, to invest. And that's a message that I'm finding here in Doha, here in the Gulf, in the time that I've been here, is something that people listen to and understand. And in many ways we're pushing at an open door. But the message I want to get over to my compatriots, obviously in Britain, is that there are huge opportunities here as well. And I would like to see much more of a partnership, and I think there are things that we could be doing and opportunities that we could be exploring that we're missing.
I want to bring up one issue. One of the leading men accused of having committed war crimes in Bangladesh is living in London. Should he go back to Bangladesh and face trial?
You'll have to forgive me if I say I'm not familiar with his case, and I'm looking anxiously around at my team to see whether they're looking a bit blank. But
if you don't know that particular story, I'm going to move on. I'm going to move on to multiculturalism, which is a very big issue for many cities in the world. It doesn't exist according to the one Commission for Racial Equality, the former head of the racial.
Trevor Phillips.
Yes. Do you believe multiculturalism exists?
Well, you've got to be very careful how you define it. I think it's a very, very good question. I believe that in London you can celebrate all the different cultures and diversity. You can celebrate the fantastic range of cultures that are united in the city. But what I don't think you should do is have a city that is balkanized, with one group separate from another, not knowing how the other's lives, not understanding. And so that is why actually it is a good idea in a great city like London to have festivals, days in which the whole city can see the attractions and advantages of another culture. So this summer we're doing Shubak again, the Arab festival, which was incredibly successful in 2010. We're hoping very much that someone distinguished will come and will open it for us, otherwise I'll have to do it again. And it will, and this is a thing that it really caught everybody by surprise. People weren't aware how many people of Arab origin there were in London. They didn't know much about Muslim culture and Islamic civilization, and that was a very, very successful thing. We want to repeat it. We want to ramp it up.
Calm at the moment, but there are a certain number of radical clerics in London, which you know about.
Yes.
Do they pose a threat to harmony?
I take that very seriously, and clearly that is an issue where I as mayor am engaged, and that is something about which I do and can speak very frankly to you, because that's something that does affect the security of London and of Londoners. And yes, I continually work with the police and with security services, with everybody who you can imagine is involved in this question, to make sure that we are keeping tabs on people who might mean no good to London and to the wider community.
It must be worrying for you, because they're asking for non-Muslims, they're asking for homosexuals to move out. How do you deal with that?
I think you've got to be very tough, and I'll be clear with you. You know, there are two strands to it. Yes, you've got to engage, and you've got to make sure that there's a thoroughgoing program of conversations with every single mosque in the area, so that we talk to people, we understand what's going on, we're fully apprised of people's issues, and where there are community concerns, we try and deal with them, be as useful as we can. But if people are essentially going to reject the society that is hosting them, in which they live, and if they're going to call for hatred or even worse of those they oppose, then we won't accept that.
Should they integrate? Should Muslims integrate more, or should they stand by their faith?
Well, I'm proud to say that my great-grandfather grew up being able to spout the Quran in Arabic by heart. He came to London in 1913, then came back again, and was then unfortunately assassinated. But he was a Muslim immigrant. In fact, I think he'd be amazed to discover I'd become mayor, and many Londoners were amazed to discover I'd become mayor. But I think he would be particularly amazed. And what I'm trying to get at is that, of course, Muslims are integrated in our city, and of course they play a fantastic role in our society,
everyday life
in everyday life in London. But there are some, and I think this is the point you're trying to get at. There are some who reject our society and its values, and it's very important we're vigilant about them.
How do you handle that?
With a great deal of detective work, great deal of work in the community, to make sure that we know what is going on, and where appropriate, we use the law to crack down on them.
How would you describe your character as a politician?
Well, I think I'm obviously the Conservative Mayor of London, but I would say
which was remarkable, considering how left-wing London is on the whole.
Yes, but I think we've got a very good programme for delivering.
But you're still not
jobs.
Talking about your character.
Well, I think it doesn't come very well for people to sit around talking about their character in some sort of self-aggrandizing way. I mean, would you?
Well, if somebody asked me, I'd say, oh, yes, I was a very honest inquisitor. Are all the skeletons out of the cupboard now?
If you look at our what we've done over the last 4 years, I think it's pretty considerable. Crime is well down in London, down about 13%. The murder rate down to levels we haven't seen since the 1960s. We're going through a huge period of investment in mass transit, in the transport infrastructure network. We've just had a very successful Olympic Games, and I think it is.
So
it is not surprising.
Look at my track record.
It is, and it's not surprising really that if people will want to find something else to attack. I think what it demonstrates is the frustration of my critics at the the blemishless marmoreal invulnerability of my record, that they are obliged to resort, as you have resorted today, to these feeble chirruping.
I love it when you get up like that, Boris. It's wonderful. On the attack with Boris Johnson. I like it. Do you think your record as Mayor of London qualifies you to run the UK? As some millions of voters seem to indicate would be a good thing.
I think, again, I think the reality is I was very lucky to get elected once. It was great to get re-elected. The guy for the job is David Cameron. He's done a fantastic job in very difficult circumstances. He's had to take over when Labour had basically blown all the money, and he's holding this coalition together brilliantly.
Isn't that your audition for the top job?
I've got 3 more years to run as mayor of as I think I may have mentioned at least twice on your show, the greatest city on earth. I'm honoured to be doing it.
But in 2016?
And
or in 2015, perhaps?
I will be, it's a long time. 3 and a bit years is a long time in politics.
Because your sister says you have a sense of superiority over David Cameron.
I think I'd rather be asked about North Korea again. Can we go back to North Korea, team? I think that we were on stronger ground there.
All right, well, let's talk about, you were at Eton with David Cameron, and he was younger than you?
More important, I was at Primrose Hill Primary School with Ed Miliband. So
what was he like at primary school?
Put that in your pipe and smoke it.
What was he like at primary school, Ed Miliband?
Well, actually, he was younger than me. We went to the same primary school.
All right. But you and David Cameron were together at school. Were you on friendly terms? He was younger than you.
Yeah. I tell you what I think about David. I think he's he's the right guy for the job. He's doing an extremely good job. He's been dealt a very difficult hand by political circumstances, because he's got to, he's got to keep the budget deficit under control and get growth going at the same time. And he has to be in coalition with the Liberal Democrats, who are not always, completely amenable to everything he wants to do, clearly. But, considering those difficulties, I think he's playing a blinder.
Do you have political ambitions?
Well, yes, I have huge ambitions, vaulting ambitions, towering ambitions for London and for the people of London. And I want to see them get into work. I want to see them better skilled, better educated. I want to see their healthcare improve, and I want to see their life chances improved. And that's why I'm here in the Gulf, because we are very lucky in our city to be the beneficiaries of massive investment from overseas. It is sometimes controversial, and people say, why are you, why are you endlessly going around courting all this foreign money? And the answer is that it's terrific for our city. It drives jobs, it drives growth, and I would also say to potential investors, it's represents a fantastically good return for those who do invest in London.
Would you like more people to come to London? Even there have been criticisms recently about the amount of immigration.
Yeah. Look, I'll tell you something that I don't think people realise. Since I've been Mayor of London, the population has risen in the last 4 or 5 years by 600,000 people. And that's live births over deaths. We're living longer, it's a good thing. We're healthier, we're living longer, and producing a phenomenal number of
Doesn't that put a strain
of
on
people.
the existing resources? Numbers like that?
It does, and it particularly puts a strain, obviously, on school places, on the
hospitals,
on social security, on the mass transit system, and yet it also offers an opportunity, because it's a dynamic economy in London. I mean, of all the parts of the UK economy, London is the one where employment is still at a record high. Huge numbers of jobs are being created. We're still the #1 financial services sector in the world. 320,000 people in financial services. And we've got growing numbers of people in new sectors like tech, biotech, nanotech, medtech, all that. It's all happening very fast, plus all the broadcasting and the media sector. So when investors look at London and they wonder whether to put money into London housing or London infrastructure, they know that the fundamentals are there for long-term success. And the fact of London's growth is actually a positive thing and will yield long-term returns for them.
Boris Johnson, thank you very much indeed
for
talking to Al Jazeera.
Thank you.